And the U.S. basically, look it for self. In semiconductors, within 5 to 7 years, if the U.S. doesn't do something very fast, it's in big trouble. It is in big trouble because it's running out of time. And the way Trump is reacting right now, it looks like someone that's running out of time because you're basically saying, I didn't like the numbers, you're fired. Okay. The other thing that you need to realize is that in terms of the reason given, what happened? Okay, what happened during that time? Well, basically, the story is that the group itself, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is in trouble. It's not so much that they're cooking the books; it's just that they basically cook. That's the idea, right? Essentially, and this is, don't forget, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Not to get into the weeds here, but basically, they come up with a CPI number, and they come up with the employment number added. I mean, these are big numbers. These impact for you. It's going to impact the rates. It impacts many things that are used by the BLS produces monthly job reports, which provides a reading of employment and employment consumer price index, which are used on everything from setting price in the market of inflation-protected treasury to determining rent, salary increases. It's a big deal. That number is a big deal. And we need to know, what's going on. So despite the import of these reports, the BLS are struggling to fill overwhelming gaps in the data. They are not getting good data, which means we may not even know if, do we really have inflation? Are we adding jobs? Are we not adding jobs? So you could understand why the administration says, listen, this is not working out. You got to do something else. And maybe you're doing it on purpose, or maybe you're not doing it on purpose. Maybe you should, because you did it last year already. Remember last year what happened? There was a lot of issue last year, and then this year, again in May, you got to fix these problems. So, of course, coincidentally again, the rise came as the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, suspended a fifth of its data collection, basically telling that it was not using a new method, because what's happening, a lot of them are being let go because of Trump letting go a lot of people in the government. So essentially, the Department of Labor is facing an 8% budget cut next year. Well, and it will have to do its job with more than 150 fewer staff, bringing the total to about 1,850. Former and current staff say the workforce is likely to worsen data standard and delays. So you could see the line, right? They're basically saying, well, on one end, I can't really do my job since they have left of us. So it's your fault. You fired a bunch of us, so it's your fault I can't get the data. And on the other end, they're saying, well, I mean, maybe what you should be doing is doing your job and tell us what you need. And then coincidentally, those numbers are horrible. I mean, one thing if you had some little bit of numbers, but now you're getting huge numbers, huge, very, very bad numbers. And that's problematic. So what happens next? Well, in the terms of CPI calculation, they used to get 90,000 price quotes every month and covering 200 different categories. But this month, they are increasingly insignificant at 30%. So that means that the data that they're collecting is not correct. That means that everything that is being done, you don't even know what you're looking at. BLS has internal issues. Okay, fine. Data is unreliable. Okay, but then why are they having these revisions? Why? I guess they're saying that people are not responding anymore to their surveys. And that's what the problem that they're having. And then they have less people processing this thing. So obviously, the key reason is structural and operational changes. They have budget cuts, shift in work patterns. It's getting, people don't want to respond to surveys anymore. But I think the bigger picture is, the thing is this. What is Trump actually doing here? Is he really trying to do this thing, or is he just, you know, being overly and irrational, right? Now, I will tell you that I was looking at Project 2025, right, and BLS. Now, you may believe in the Project 2025, which I really didn't pay too much attention. But now I realize that within that project, it would appear, it would appear that this part of the plan to make things even more complicated. So basically, uh, just so that people don't know, Project 2025 is a 920-page policy from the Heritage Foundation aiming to reshape federal governance under potential second Trump administration. Trump says, I have nothing to do with these people. But it emphasized decentralized executive control, reducing dependence on agencies like the DOJ, the EPA, and the BLS. So it looks like part of that plan is to get rid of all these people telling us what's going on and what to do and how to do it. The idea is to merge a BLS, a Census Bureau, and all these things together. What is going on? The concern, obviously, is that we're losing integrity in the data. But not only that, it's almost like, so they're combining this with the fact that Trump is acting like an emperor and deciding all these things and all these like the tariffs that you may not even be allowed to do. So does this mean that this is becoming what, an autocracy or anything like that? That's just a bit worrisome. I mean, I don't want to get into that topic, but obviously that is obviously coming up. And of course, depending who you're listening to, they will push it one way or the other and make it very confusing for you to understand what's happening. And that is something that you need to be aware of. What what that means and why is this a concern? Now the fact is that's true. They're collecting less and less data. That's true. They're having more difficulties. They let go a lot of these people. That is true as well. And they have had a lot of revisions. That is true as well. And so all these things are happening at the same time. I mean, don't keep in mind, and each month the BLS surveys about 120,000 employees by phone and online to track the number of jobs on the economy, one of the world's largest sophisticated monthly polls. Many businesses, about 30 to 40%, don't reply on time. So that's a problem. You can't get the data. You don't have enough people. What do I care? Well, you need to care because now the numbers that you're seeing are not impacting you. And more importantly, I will tell you this. If the Fed had known that the May numbers and the June numbers were not correct, were the if the Fed had seen in May that they had seen minus 258,000 at that time, it would very likely they would have influenced their thinking. Now, this little woman that I got fired in the BLS, if they did the thing that they were supposed to do, or they didn't have the problem they were supposed to have, maybe we would have had rate cut a lot earlier. And potentially the trajectory of interest rates. Why it would matter to the Fed? But because employment growth is a key mandate. The Fed has a dual mandate: maximum employment and price stability. Job creation is one of the most real-time indicator of labor market strength. That number tells you if we're creating jobs or not, and you're getting the wrong number. Or at least you made a mistake. Or at least they didn't reply in time. You didn't have enough people. But that number tells the Fed, are we creating jobs or not? Because the Fed's job, main job basically, is to make sure we have employment. How do you make sure you have employment? You make sure you have employment by reducing the rate to help the promote, right? To make sure that the economy goes up and we have, but if the numbers look high, you say, well, I don't need to lower the rates. Well, you should have, because the number were much lower than expected. A drop in job gains to an average of just 36,000 a month is far below the threshold economists associate with a healthy labor market. which is about 100 to 150,000. If they had seen that number in May, they would have lowered the rates probably. It signals a cooling labor market. Prior to the revision, the Fed likely believed the labor market was moderate, but it was stable. With those revisions, it's clear that job market had slowed more drastically, flashing early recession signals. They should have done something in May or in June, but they didn't do it because they did not see the data. Wages and employment trends had weighed. The July unemployment rate ticked up a little bit by 4.2%. And long-term unemployment rate sharply. The point being is that, even though the unemployment number is not so huge, that's because we lost a lot of people that left the country, from 2 million to 1 million. 2 million people joined from the U.S., U.S.-born people joined the workforce, but about 1 million people, non-U.S. born, left the country, so we had a lot less people joining the workforce, so that kind of balanced it out. That's why you're not seeing a huge jump in the unemployment numbers. And it's a precedent. The Fed has previously pivoted policy in response to employment surprises in 2007, 2008, 2020. And according to analysts, the revised data likely strengthened the case of rate cut. But you didn't get a rate cut. You did not get a rate cut because that woman did not report the correct number. Of course, she's saying it is not really my fault. It's because first, the people are not responding. Two, Trump fired a lot of my people, so I don't have many people to work with. And three, this is a difficult job. We're surveying, and people are not really, the survey people and the surveying people surveyed are not really replying anymore. So I don't know what to do. If the May had shown report that May and June growth had grown to zero, that the 3 months average had dropped below recession, the Fed would likely discuss pausing rate hikes and even signaling an incoming cut, then it could have lowered the rates, and it didn't. So overall, what's really happening here is Trump can't wait any longer. And the reason I believe he has no patience anymore is because he's running out of time, unfortunately, because he's got a lot of things to do. The tariffs are making their way through the process, but at some point, he knows that the tariffs are going to be a tax, and that is floating the idea. So he's floating the idea of a tariff refund. But so for you, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, overall, what's really happening is basically what Trump is doing. He is trying to catch up as fast as he can, because what's happening right now, it is kind of very, very, very slow, right? I think he's having difficulties, gathering support for what he's trying to do. And the reason he's having difficulty gathering support is because he's hitting many institutions at the same time, right? He's taking care, he's going after the dollar, the tariffs, Powell, Israel, China, inflation, Russia. Now you've got the Maxwell situation happening. So all of these things are hitting at the same time, just at a time when, frankly, he is running out of time, and the U.S. is running. And it's kind of this idea when he keeps saying that we want to make America great again. No, it's not so much you want to make America great again. You're trying to keep the U.S. relevant. And the reason you want to keep the U.S. relevant, and that is a fact, is that the clock is ticking on the U.S. The U.S. is already at risk of losing competitiveness in key industrial and pharmaceutical sector. Erosion could accelerate within the next 5 to 10 years. The U.S. share of global manufacturing output has declined from 30% to 18%. Critical industry like semiconductors, battery, steel, machine tools, EV components dominated by China, Korea, Taiwan, and Germany. So you have an aging infrastructure, underinvestment in workforce and tooling, over-reliance on global supply chain. You are in trouble. The U.S. is in trouble. And that lady coming up with those numbers at the last minute is a problem. Now, of course, she probably, you know, she could see her point as well. See, I got less people working for me, and those people, and I'm sure it's the case for you, those damn people are not answering the surveys. What do you want from me? So now what they're doing more and more, instead of asking for surveys, they start to scrape the web to figure out what's really going on. And that's a problem. And the reason it's a problem is because the U.S., Trump, and specifically, is running out of time. The U.S. pharmaceutical sector, frankly, the U.S. rely on foreign production by 90 to 95% of active pharmaceutical products are not made in the U.S. And that's a problem, right? Um, they're lacking that situation. And more importantly, the strain that we're seeing with the BLS would seem to indicate that maybe the woman, did a job, and it's just the thing that's happening. But overall, though, um, some people are putting this firing within the realm of saying that, well, this is part of the big plan. We're changing everything. We are going after all the pillars, and we're becoming a different type of society. And or it could be just no, she just doesn't have enough jobs and available, and that's all there is. So what's really going on? Because if you think that this is overdone, this BLS workout, her being fired, then you have to think that this is part of a big plan. The big plan to essentially proposal to merge the BLS into a single statistical agency. That means that this would politicize the data and erode trust in labor markets. And that's what some people are saying. Oh my God, Trump is firing this woman. Look what's happening. Forget the idea of the numbers. He's firing this woman, and now what's happening? We're gonna lose the data itself because we won't even trust it. Obviously, we were trusting it before, even though it was totally off. But this now we really can't trust it anymore because now Trump is in charge and he's merging all these things and he's doing the tariffs, which frankly he may not even have the right to do. And some people were saying today, which hard to believe, that the court may disagree with it and therefore you have to bring it back, and like it never happened. I don't know. I mean, that's going to be a lot of damage to do that. BLS under threat in the Project 2025 vision. The Project 25 support restoring Schedule F, a controversial classification that empowers the White House to fire civil servants, which could undermine the BL independence. And in early 2025, following week of job numbers, allegedly, basically, no, I'm not firing because of Project 2025. I'm firing because she's giving me the wrong numbers. Aha, is that what you're really doing? I don't know. But it's very coincidental. But I mean, it's not so coincidental. Again, I'm telling you that these numbers that we saw are huge, huge numbers. Those revision in the economic number, okay, just to make sure you understand that the revision that we've seen recently, the May and June 2025 employment gains were revised downward by 258,000 jobs. What's going on there? The largest 2-month downward adjustment since 1968. Wake up, people. What are they doing? 1968, we have never had such a huge revision. So on one hand, I guess they're saying that, well, basically the government is combining, it's firing all the civil servant and want their own people in place so they could say the numbers. But on the other end, people are going to say, what are you talking about? Okay, you could make a mistake, but this is the largest 2-month downward adjustment outside since 1968. This is what I'm here for this channel, to look for black swan and things are going wrong, but there's obviously something off. No, there's nothing off. She just doesn't have enough people to work for her, and nobody's answering the surveys. Okay. And what happened last year? Last year, August 2024, 818,000 fewer jobs were created. Oh, but hold on, this is a Biden era. What are you talking? Well, hold on. But that was announced in August. So the entire year, you thought you had more jobs, and I mean, when you vote for a president, you want to make sure they give you jobs. So you want to know what's happening. And in this case, they were looking at it and they say, well, Biden created jobs. Oh, you know what? No, actually, in August, he didn't. Oh, so all year when we thought we had these jobs, we didn't have them. No, we didn't have them. Oh, but it's August. It's before the election. Yeah, but understand that the elections were in November. So by August, I mean, unless you're following these things, every day, you're gonna figure, well, I mean, who knows what happened in later on. But the point is, the notion that you have is that Biden was creating jobs when in fact you didn't have those jobs. Now, I don't care which side you're on, but that's a fact. And obviously, at that time, Trump said, well, what the heck is going on? Really? So all year long, you keep those numbers up, 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 and then you say, oh, no, they wanted it down. But all year long, people had the wrong impression. Now, how significant are those revisions? Because you say, well, numbers, because I'm telling you about 816, 153. Who cares how important it is? Let me tell you. This 818,000 downward revision from last year was significant both statistically and politically. Again, we could have gotten a rate decrease at the end of the year, or you could have gotten a rate decrease. You didn't get it because the number were off, okay? And now last year, typical benchmark revision are around 0.1%, like 150,000 jobs. That 800,000 is 0.5%. What is going on here? 5 times larger than normal. No, but you understand, I don't have enough people. No, we didn't fire people then. We wouldn't find the people. You can't say that last year. You can't say that you didn't have any people working for you last year. You can't say that. Well, the people are not answering the... It's a very complex thing. You would understand. It definitely is true. Nobody understands what's going on because you're going out, you're surveying, and who knows what you're really doing. But the point is, last year, you can't tell me that the reason why you were off by 5 times larger than normal is because you don't have enough people, because Biden wasn't firing anyone last year. It's only happening this year. So I guess you could say that last year you're basically saying that the people are not responding, which is true. People are responding less and less and less to surveys. But this has a huge implication, and this is the idea. I'm not here to report the news that she got fired. That it's what's really going on underneath. What the heck is going on underneath? Because it's telling you that you're not getting the real data. Who cares? You care very much, because if you had known the number in May and you had known the number in June of this year, the Fed probably would have made a different situation. I checked into it, right? And the Federal Reserve had shown if the Federal Reserve at that time was shown the May and June number that we saw last week, which is basically 258,000 jobs, less, it would very likely would have influenced their thinking, and potentially they could have lowered the rates. Because the Fed has 2 mandates. Where on one hand, they're supposed to take care of the rates, meaning, and then take care of inflation. They take care of the employment, right? Maximum employment and price stability. And job creation is one of the most real-time indicators of the labor market. We're talking, okay, this job number that not many people may understand is how you could tell it's a real-time indicator. Are we creating jobs? And how do they do this? They go out and survey, send email, check, call, and then get numbers back from like 90,000 people. And then, of course, that would have signaled a cooling in the labor market. Prior to the revision, the Fed likely believed the labor market was stable. So if the labor market is stable, I want to go after inflation. I don't want to give you more jobs by lowering rates, because if I lower rates too much, I'm overheating the economy, I'm getting inflation, right? That's what they're doing. So the July unemployment rate was up a little bit, but with the revision, it's clear that job growth had slowed more drastically, possibly flashing early recession signal. We may be going into a recession right now. And because of her and the BLS, you got that right. Well, you got to do what you got to do. Who is this from Jester? Yeah, that's the thing, right? And I like nice things, and I want to keep those nice things, and I want to understand what's happening in the world. You should have seen my video from yesterday. You would like that one definitely more. Anyway, it's an inside thing between me and Jester. So basically, the idea of this video is really to explain to the people, please be aware what's going on, okay? What's going on is what could have happened, and that's the frustrating thing, right? We could have had a rate decrease in May or in June, and we didn't get it. And this obviously impacts you a lot. Well, because you could have bought things for cheaper. You could have had a mortgage cheaper. Lots of things could have happened at that time. But that didn't happen. And the question that, and this is where, if you can, if you want, if you like, you could put yourself in Trump's mind. And you're saying, people, you don't understand. I am running out of time here. And you could see what's happening. Of course, you could say, well, he's crazy and he's doing it in a way that is coercing, and I don't disagree. I mean, he's pissing a lot of people. But at the same time, you have to understand that the man is running out of time. Not only the man is running out of time, the country is running out of time. The U.S., believe it or not, is losing ground. And this is not... foolish. It's so funny, this guy's name is Trump. I know. Is that amazing? Trump card, Trump. But basically what's happening here is on one hand, you're going to say, but he's attacking the pillars of society, the trade, the economic institution. He's crazy. He wants to be a king. He wants to be an emperor. But be careful who's telling you that. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying listen to who is telling you all of these things first. That's important. Yeah, he's pissing a lot of people. That's true. Yes, he's going fast. That's true. Can somebody think? Well, maybe there's a reason behind it. Because don't forget, he's out of time. Frankly, I hate to say it, he's out of time, and he's out of time. But how about the economy? Is the economy out of time? Well, the U.S. is already at risk of losing competitiveness in key industrial and pharmaceutical sector. If you understand what I'm telling you now, then people would say, well, okay, well, we need to do something. Now, is Trump the solution? I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, maybe not. But the point is something needs to get done because that is a fact, right? Without significant strategic investment, erosion could accelerate within the next 5 to 10 years. And you should know that. It's the nature of the world. A king was never part of the deal. Now the next well, yeah, right. That's the thing, right? And this notion that he's an emperor, a king, and he's deciding and he's pushing. I mean, frankly, the tariffs. Anybody else would say, "Well, hold on, let me see if I could do it." They're going to say, "You can't do that. Is there any emergency at the border? Fentanyl? Yeah, but a real emergency? Well, yeah. So okay, fine. Then do something with Mexico. What about Brazil? Is there an emergency with Brazil? What? Because you're taxing Brazil 50%. What are you doing there? Well, because he said to the guy that he said that I think sometimes he does go too far. The Brazilian president, basically, the previous president of Brazil is being indicted, environment and all that. The economy was at a level in the. So basically, what's happening? He was involved in some. Last year, the president of Brazil is being under house arrest, the former president, and he's a friend of Trump. And Trump says, "What are you doing to my friend? 50% tariffs." I'm sorry, that is not an emergency for the U.S. So now you're pushing it, because technically that's not an emergency. And I'm sure he has to be careful what he says because right now they are investigating the truthfulness and the legality behind the tariffs. right? Can he actually do these things? And if they come out and eventually say, no, you can't, that it's not an emergency. Now, of course, you have to understand that no one define emergency, because he may think, I am the chief executive and this is an emergency for me. So it's going to be, so I don't think they're going to be able to. But imagine you're going to refund $300 billion to Europe and all these countries. He puts 35% on tariff for saying Palestine. Exactly. See that, you can't say that, because that technically, and I want you to be informed, but it needs to be an emergency. And not going through all the cases, but because there's like 3 or 4 bylaws, but basically you can only do it if it is an emergency to the US. Now, the fact that Canada is saying that Canada is going to recognize Palestine, then you're getting 35% tariff. But then he's going to tell you, well, I didn't really mean it that way. That's because he pulled back on the thing with the Brazilian thing, because somebody told him, stop saying that, because you can't say that. I don't care. I mean, but you can't say it, because otherwise it looks like it's something beyond you. You're just doing what you want to do with the tariffs, and you can't do that. There are certain guidelines. You're not a king, literally, with the tariffs. You cannot just do whatever you want. So the U.S., in terms of pharmaceutical sector, is still leading in a research and innovation, but it is relying heavily. 90 to 95% of your pharmaceutical ingredients are made overseas. You got to do something. Why? Because if tomorrow they decide to cut you off, you're done. He puts 35, right. Okay. So be very careful, because all of what these people are doing will impact you and all of us, especially my subscribers. And I want my subscribers to be the most informed subscribers that they are. I mean, you may like or may not like what's really happening and what's being done, and that's your right, obviously. But I want to make sure we understand we have a level playing field. So with this BLS business, what's going on is there's a lot of huge errors that have been made, and the explanation, it depends. We haven't spoken. She hasn't said anything, right? Really, what you should know. I would love to have somebody that works at BLS that could tell us what's going on. If they won't buy tea in America, let them. When they didn't raise the taxes, the broader peer did it. That's why I'm investing in AI development, pharma research. I'll make a lot of money with recursion pharma. Well, I mean, in terms of investment, right now, definitely rare earth minerals, definitely AI, and obviously Europe. Very important, because the U.S. is overvalued, so be careful. So you want AI, rare earth minerals, and more importantly, what you want to look at, and in fact, let me give you a quick link, so you get a free access to my Patreon channel there. But basically, you want the small caps. Small caps are the way to go, my friends. Why? Because they are extremely, extremely undervalued right now. Why? Because everybody wants to buy NVIDIA, but frankly, that is a bit too late. So what you want to do is you definitely want, here, let me give you that in the chat. I did bought a couple of stocks recently, and they're doing quite well. So that's what you want to do. The idea then, of course, is to say, okay, so what happens next? Well, I mean, on one end, everything is going down the tube. I mean, and we're talking about, for semiconductors, you have between 5 and 7 years. EV components, 3 to 5. Generic drugs, 3 to 5. I mean, and of course, Taiwan, South Korea, China, India, China, all of them are providing it to us right now, which is a good thing. But I guess the point is, well, we need to do these things ourselves as well. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. And what this situation with BLS exemplify what's wrong with the system right now, and that needs to be fixed. Or at the very least, understand, because you can't control it, but at least, for example, like this guy said, I'm going to be investing in, was it Daniel said that? is that price for quantity of product is now they undermine their cost, right? Is low, they determine their cost. Um, AI develop, yeah, he's buying in AI, and that's what you want to do. Now, of course, the problem is that price per quantity of product is how they determine their cost. Yeah, so the cost is very low for these countries. So that's why they're coming in, and the U.S. is more than willing. I mean, was more than willing. Now, for some reason, Trump and the U.S. administration says this is not good enough. That is not good enough. It needs to stop. And I think the way, and unfortunately, you'll notice that unfortunately, everyone that's working with Trump is just pulling back. It's mostly him. And you don't see Rubio as much. You don't see the VP as much. I mean, he said, listen, probably he knows that people, I don't know if this thing is going to work, but in case it doesn't work, I don't want to be too close to. So I don't know. That's what it feels to me, that they're basically, that I think the next will be nuclear energy. I found the next NVIDIA. I got in early. Well, first of all, let me tell you one thing about stocks. No one knows what's going to happen to stocks, and be very careful. Anyone that tells you, buy these stocks or buy that stocks, because frankly, it shouldn't be done, and frankly, nobody knows what drives it. I mean, NVIDIA, yeah, if you could find the next NVIDIA, great. But what you should be looking for, and this is what the channel is about, which is about Black Swan, you want to know exactly basically what you want is you want to avoid risks. You don't want risks. That is one thing you do not want, because the more risk you have, it's hard to manage, right? When you cross the street, you want to go across the street. You don't want to, I mean, when you cross the street, you want to make sure you don't run over first, and then you cross the street, right? That's exactly what it is. Here, unfortunately, everyone wants to make where's the next NVIDIA? Tell me. So you go online and you hear all these people telling you all these wonderful things. Look, I did this. I'm going to share with you my trading secret. No, 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 no. Do not do that. Do not buy what you don't understand. Do you know how Warren Buffett made money? He made money by buying what he understood only. Okay? What I mean by that is that instead of everybody tells you have to diversify your portfolio, go all over the place, diversify the portfolio. And he basically said, no, 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 but diversify into what? I know B of A, I know IBM, I know these things. I don't understand anything. I don't know AI. I understand real estate. I don't want to get into these things, because then when you don't understand, why would you buy something that you don't understand? That is a problem, right? That is something that you have to be very aware of. And what this thing with the job report exemplify a situation where, frankly, what they're telling us is that this lady just did not have enough people to work for her. Well, what happened last year then? Because last year you said that there were 818,000 jobs created. And in fact, they weren't. And you said that in March 2024, right when the elections were taken off, right? Everybody was starting to make up their mind. And then in August, you said, no, I have made a mistake. We have 800,000 less, just in time before the election. Now, rightfully, you'd say, wow, really? This is the time that you pick to say something like that. That is a little bit, look at it, it's a little bit, try not to push any stocks because people don't understand what they're buying. So, you know what I mean? It's a bit tough. So nobody knew what was going on at that time, and they just said, "Oh, okay, so let's just do it. Let's just yeah, exactly." And the revisions were a bit too much, right? This 2024 revision, of course, in March, it's extremely significant. And the reason it's significant is statistically and politically significant. Usually you have like 0.1 or 150,000 job revision, the annual revision they do. Here was 800. Of course, you could say, well, people are not responding. It's a complicated job. It's a hard thing to do. I don't think the Biden administration would have complained about 800,000 extra job, right? They wouldn't say, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" So that's what's happening, and 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 then Trump gets elected, obviously, and he's pissed, rightfully so. But he said, "What are you pissed for? We came up in August." Yeah, but you know very well that people make up their mind way early, and there was a lot less job being created, and blah blah blah. And then it happens again. Except now it's even worse, right? Because now the May and the June numbers really impacted the decision of the Fed. The in May and in June, because last week they said, "Oops, we're off by another 258,000." But you keep making the same mistake over and over. It's not my fault. It's the fact that Trump now cut a lot of my people out, and it's true. A lot of them, he fired a lot of federal workers. BLS is facing a funding crunch with the Department of Labor, showing the agency is facing 8% budget cut next year. It also has to do a job with fewer than 150 fewer staff, according to projection, bringing the total to about 18. So they have less people working at the BLS. Therefore, it's a problem. I'm not so sure. I mean, statistically, it's extremely, extremely coincidental. But of course, now that Trump wants to remove the BLS, they'll say, "Aha, it's Project 2020-25 all over again." So you do want to become a king. So you have to be careful that you don't get swayed by your own opinion, quite frankly, and understand the facts. Now, what is really happening on the ground? What's really happening is there was a mistake. What's happening is the Fed could have done something earlier, and it's two huge, large mistakes back to back. And yes, some people are going to let go, but last year there weren't people any let go. Right? Last year, Biden wasn't firing anyone at the government, so you can't use that excuse. I guess at that time, and it's a fact that less and less and less people are actually responding to surveys. In fact, the CPI, which also comes from that same office, the CPI she also takes care of the CPI. And the CPI, the way they calculate it, they basically go out and they collect 90,000 price quotes every month, covering 200 different categories. And there are several hundred field collectors across 75 urban areas. I mean, it is a huge job, right? It's very complex. So when the data is not available, the BLS staff typically develop estimates for like 10%. I don't know. I'm assuming like you like this guy, you don't like it. I'm going to assume. But quite frankly, now you're assuming a bit too much, right? So inflation now, how much inflation do we have? I am I'm conflicted. When data is not available, then the BLS staff typically develop estimates for approximately 10% of the sales. I think that inflation is, I think those prices are going up here. However, the share that CPI that is estimated has increased significantly in recent months. Again, very coincidental. Why? And now they estimate 30% of the number that is used to calculate inflation. So we may not be even sure of what we have anymore. That's key. May not be key today, it's going to be key tomorrow, right? It's going to be key tomorrow because if we're not aware of because don't forget, the Fed is basically, how do they make decision, right? What does the Fed do? What do they do? What do they manage? Well, they basically look at data, right? They look at the data. And what are the data from? What are they looking at? They're not in the street counting they don't go to Home Depot and say, wow, prices have gone up a lot, right? That is not what they do. What they do is they basically look at what's going on, and basically they use the CPI data from the BLS. This is huge. And you need to understand that. So if you invest in stocks, for example, like this guy saying buy this stock and buy that stock, I will tell you one thing: when the market crash, everybody crashes at the same time. So you want to know, because right now the market is going up, which is good, but how far, how long, how much is that going to go? I mean, what are we talking about? How long, how long is that going to happen for? But that's because the market right now is assuming that you're going to have a rate cut. Yeah. But if you don't get a rate cut, what happens? Oh, well, then the market will crash. Why? Well, because the market is overvalued right now. There's too much. I mean, the P ratio is extremely high. Um, you know, um, because that's how the market works, unfortunately, and no one knows. And I mean, no one knows what drives the market, but that obviously the higher rate goes up, the lower the stock market, right? If you could get 10% risk free out there, you're going to buy 10% risk free. You're not going to bother with the stock market that much. Unfortunately, that's how it is. So at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to make sure you kind of have an idea of what's going to happen next. An idea. I'm not saying understand, but have an idea what's happening. And right now, you have to be careful, right? Because on one end, if the BLS numbers that we're seeing for CPI is incorrect, or at least it's 30% now is, I wouldn't say made up, but you know, is predicted, is expected, right? Is forecast, but it's not actual data. And inflation is actually doing this, and you don't see it. Meanwhile, Trump is going to have those rates lower. This is very important to understand. You're going to have lower rates. Why? Well, you're going to have lower rates because out of the 7 governors in the Fed right now, I believe that 2 are Trump appointees, 1 woman left. Another incredible coincidence last week. She was supposed to make a decision on the rates, and she said that I don't want to deal with that. I'm out. So obviously Trump is going to replace her this week with that lady. These are important people that are going to impact you, trust me. So that lady is leaving, so they're going to replace it with someone else. So then on the board, you're going to have 4 Biden, 3 Trumps. But it's not a given yet, right? It is not a given yet for you to succeed, right? That they're going to say, okay, lower rates. But of course, if we get another number like we got an employee number of 70,000 job added, then hopefully they do something, unless they have something else in the back of their mind. They really don't like Trump and they really want to tank the whole thing. Who knows? But you have to be careful because that's always a possibility. They could always do things like that. Okay. So basically, it looks like a rate cut. No. Okay. The next thing you need to worry about, well, what's happening to the employment numbers? Right? Are we going to have employment? Is employment weakened or again, this is what I need to explain to you is, yeah, the numbers that came out, the 70,000 that came out recently was not great. It was weak. That's a fact. No, does this mean that the whole thing is going to the tanker and we have a recession? Hold off, because what's happening is you're also losing a lot of people that are not coming to the country, and a lot of people that were there are left. So they have your workforce is shrinking. Yeah, you have 2.5, 2.6 million coming in from the U.S. itself, homeborn, and then you lost 1.6 that weren't born, and they left. So you have a shrinking workforce. So if you have less people, that less creation of job is one thing, but if your workforce is shrinking, and at the end of the day, let's take it easy. That's what the market is doing great. The unemployment rate is only 44% or 4 something percent. So we know we're nickel and diming 4.3, 4.2, which is much lower than all the other countries. I mean, Canada has 6%, and after what Trump has done with them, it's going to be even worse. In fact, they're starting to pump money in some of the industries because, you know, tariffs are coming to Trump to Canada. So that's a problem right there. You need to. So employment is going to be. It's okay. I mean, we're not dying. We're not having a recession. But obviously, you need to know what the numbers are because if again you make a mistake, so what Trump is doing, I'm going to put my own people in there, and they're going to tell me exactly what's happening. And trust me, they are going to tell me, "Oh my God, what is he doing?" Now he is the one that's going to be lying and cheating and changing and confolding the numbers. We can't win. I mean, that's what they're saying. I don't know if they're right or wrong, but um, I don't know. What is, Gary said, what is the interest owed on the debt? Can you figure out that is? Okay. So that's risk number 11 in my list. We owe $37 trillion. Every year, the interest is about $1 trillion. The interest is more than you're spending on defense. Okay, well, I'm not going to fight. How does that impact me? Let me tell you how this 37 trillion is going to impact you. What's happening right now is there's about 8 to 9 years left. 8 to 9 years left in funding for Social Security. So the only way you're going to be able to fund more, you're going to have to borrow more and increase that amount even higher. The Fed, Powell basically said, and I agree with them, Powell said that the debt is substantial, is manageable, right? But it's not sustainable. And the only reason, and this I hope my subscribers understand, the incredible privilege it is to live in the US and have the dollar, is that the dollar is a reserve currency. So all the US needs to do to pay the debt is to basically print more money and pay itself with the debt, with the money. I mean, no other country. I mean, I think Europe could do that, maybe China to a certain extent, but not most countries can't just say, I can't pay you. I'm going to pay you with more my currency. No, because what you're doing, it's a scam. Yes, I mean it's not a scam. Who said that? The Crow. Well, it is a scam in a sense that, suppose it was you, right? You have a $10,000 credit card, you max it out, and then the bank calls you and says, "Hey, you owe me $1,000." It's 100% scam. You owe me $100,000, $1,000 in interest. You say, "Hold on, give me another credit card, and I will pay you with that credit card." That wouldn't work, right? But it works for the U.S. Why? Because because the dollar is a reserve currency. Nothing gets done without the dollar in the world. You cannot, apart from Russia, because what Biden did, he weaponized the dollar and he tried to take him out. And this is part of this, hopefully that doesn't get too complicated, but basically that's part of these grand schemes, right? It's a great scheme of basically trying to justify. I mean, not only with the dollar, the U.S. is becoming irrelevant very slowly, right? Because of, but at the same time, and Trump said it himself that we need to keep the dollar relevant as well, because I want the dollar to be a reserve currency. I don't want, because all you need to do in the past, what people would do is they would just send you the stuff, and like China, whatever, and you give them dollars, and they work here with that. But the moment they don't want your dollars, so don't get panicky about this, I'm just talking here. The moment they don't want your dollars, and the moment you're not producing anything anymore, then they say, I don't need you anymore. Well, no, but I had dollars. I need more pharmaceutical item. I need more EV cars, and I need more microchips. I don't want your dollar. You make it yourself. But I forgot how to make it. Oh, that's your problem. That's kind of what's happening here in a grand scheme of thing. And this is where the administration, and I don't care who it is, the next one is going to do it. I mean, Biden was worried about it enough for him to do the Chip Act. You may like the guy, may not like the guy, whatever. But the point, he was trying to do something, and so is this new president's trying to do something, because they realize, guys, you don't understand. We are losing very slowly. We are going down the currency and all that, and these people are getting together, and they don't need us. China needs you for what? China needs the U.S. really to spend to sell it to CIS. All will bow to China. Be careful, because right now, I don't know if you noticed, but Trump went to China and said, "Do this, do this, do that." And they said, "Whoa, let's talk about it." Trump went to Russia. "I want you to stop fighting." Okay, let's talk about it. You guys are not listening to me? So you already have your own thing then, basically. And then, of course, the latest thing, and then we talked about it yesterday, is the fact that India now is saying, hold on, what do you want me to do? Stop buying oil from Russia? I'm not going to do that. Because why hold somebody else currency if you don't use it to buy their... Yes, exactly. Foolish cry is totally right. The only and by the way, and this is a fact, you could check it. Right now, China is holding less treasuries than the UK. And by the way, the 37 trillion who asked me that very good question? Gary Ford. This year, Gary, we need to refinance 9 trillion. And that's what they're waiting for us. That's what they're waiting for the U.S. They're saying, okay, now you need $9 trillion. Let's see what you're going to do. And it would appear that yesterday the numbers, in fact, I should do a video on that, but the numbers didn't, I mean, they got it done, not 9 trillion, a part of it, but they're having some issues. They're having more issues than they thought they were going to have. And so the U.S. have to step in within U.S. institution had to step in to take some of the money, because you think Canada wants to buy dollars right now? Canada is pissed, and rightfully so, I guess, because I thought we were friends, and now look what you're doing to me, right? So that $37 trillion, 9 needs to be refinanced. If you can't refinance it now, it's going to cost you more. Then you're going to have to raise. Then the thing is, then what you have to do, and that's what you have to watch. Trust me on this. Watch the 10-year yield. If that thing starts to creep up, you're in trouble, because now all the debt that is financed at 3% is going to be to refinance at 4.5%, 5%. And that's why in April, when the market tanked and Trump was talking tariffs, he pulled back 90 days because the yield in the 10-year was going up. The yield is what you need to worry about. That is what you should be considering. Forget the stock market. You need to worry about the credit markets, because if you lose the credit markets, you lose liquidity. If you lose liquidity, it's all gone. Right? If you have no liquidity, no one wants to buy anything, and that's what they want to do with the dollar. They want to make sure, hey, I want to make sure the dollar is relevant here, right? So we need to keep spending it and spending it. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble. That's right. That's what we need to do. So that lady basically said, I gave you the 2 most worst uncertain number ever, or in a long time. And the reason I did that is because you're firing a lot of my people. A lot of people are not responding to my surveys. And, so that's what's happening here. I'm very sorry, but I didn't do it on purpose. Lots of coincidence, right? And unfortunately, I don't think that the Trump organization has time or can afford, any more mistakes on any side, because these are huge mistakes. The fact that you're off on the CPI and you're probably off on the CPI, and you are off on the numbers. Listen, if inflation is higher than expected, right? You don't realize it because you don't see it, because the numbers now, you can't even trust the numbers. And you're probably seeing it yourself every day. I mean, I'm seeing the numbers going up, but I mean, things are more expensive. And on top of that, you also have a problem with the fact that rates are going to go down. Then you have 1980 all over again. And I don't have to remind you what 1980 was like. And the thing is, they're making decisions on data that is not accurate. That's a problem. They're making if you what are you saying? If you agree, situation is built in, just buy IKEA, everybody's crying and lost everything. Yep, foreign investment scared, but Fed wants it high. Yes. 1984 was over. Yeah. In 1987, September 19. So you have to be very careful as to what's happening. You want to make sure you understand what's happening. And frankly, what is happening right now, there's a war going on, and it's a strategic shift happening. And depending where you're listening and who's telling you, who's talking to you, you got to be careful you're talking to the right person, you're listening to the right thing. Because right now, this channel, which is called the Black Swan, we are looking for these things that are not good, that are, and right now, the issue is the data that we're seeing for employment are incorrect. Because, the worst thing that could happen with the Fed, they could say in August, well, it looks like the numbers are low, but are they really low? Because now we don't trust the numbers. So you know what? I'm going to wait until September to see what happened with inflation. So we're not going to lower the rates. I mean, I know 3 of you guys want to do it. I'm going to have 3 dissents. I don't care. I got 4 people on my side, so we still could go for it. Although I don't think, 3 dissent at the Fed, that is never heard of. That is a very, very, very unlikely. But you never know. So what are the risks? Stay with me for like a minute. What are the risks that we are concerned about? We are concerned about, and we'll talk about this afternoon because, as you know, they want to see Clinton with Maxwell. They want to see the Clinton in Congress. They want to talk to them. Okay, so because that's going to be a problem for Trump in terms of his access to MAGA. And obviously whatever this woman start talking, that's going to be a bombshell. And I think Trump knows it, and he knows that he's running out of time on that too. And before he loses everyone with the Maxwell and the Biden testifying, because don't forget, Bill Clinton was on those planes. He went over there. And the reason we're even talking about that is because then what's going to happen is if Trump loses the MAGA and it becomes an issue, then what you're going to have is you're going to lose all of these things that Trump is holding together. Don't forget, today, the president, the prime minister of Switzerland is coming over to the U.S. to literally beg, right, for, hey, what do you mean 39%? You can't be serious. 39% tariff for my watches? I won't be able to buy my watches anymore, right? That's a problem. 39% more. You can't do that. So what they're going to do, which is kind of what Trump is doing right now, he's saying, okay, well, send some money over, invest in the U.S., buy some, energy or oil or gas or whatever. And you have to be careful with that thing, because what I realize is that these are not real purchases. Be careful. When Trump says they're going to invest $550 billion, they're going to invest $600 billion, they're going to invest, they're not really investing anything. They are promising, but these are loans. It's not cash in the suitcase that you get to invest. Be careful. And that's the thing that I'm a little concerned about, all these deals that are being made, because at the end of the day, what are you really doing? You're upsetting people. And 1, 2, they're not really giving you anything. When Europe says when Europe say that I am going to invest 750 billion over 3 years, or 250 billion in oil and gas, basically buying your oil, when you know very well that the most you're purchasing is 100 billion, where are you going to get another 250 billion? You're not going to buy it from the other country? What kind of promises are these? Are they real deals? And I think Trump knows that too. And I think that's why he's floating the idea that he's going to give everyone a refund, a tariff refund, I think like $600-700. Why? Well, because I think it's going to come across that the tariffs are going to be paid by the people. Now, who invested in poor countries, feed them, let them govern themselves, then defend, rebuild Europe, protect foreign countries, and beat or to. That's true. Gary's story ran on that. The U.S. did all that, but that was World War II. That was the last time the U.S. won anything. And something needs to get done to bring the U.S. back from the brink that is slowly coming. Listen, don't take my word for it. See the reaction that you're getting from the Chinese and from Russia, and now from India. Trump said, do this, do this. He said, well, I'm not doing it right now. Of course, look what's happening with Switzerland. Switzerland is literally flying over today, right? Because they want a deal. And they're going to meet, they're not even going to meet with Trump. I think they're meeting with Marco Rubio. But that's not, you don't see Russia flying over wanting to make a deal. You don't see China coming over to make a deal. And India, definitely not. I'm concerned that block, that brick block is already done, people. And you need to realize that. That block is already formed. And the reason you know it's formed because they're reacting differently. Right? They're not, okay, I'm sorry. A couple of days ago, Trump basically went to Modi and said, you are a liar. I cannot trust you, right? Why are you getting oil from Russia, 30% of your oil from Russia, and then you're getting it at the discount, and then you're selling it back to other people at a profit? He says, what? That's illegal. I don't do that. Yeah, but on top of that, you're tariffing us to death. And I've checked. Last time I checked, India is about 6-7% tariffs. I didn't know they were charging. Switzerland is charging the US 0, and they're going to be charged 39%. Now, Switzerland, apart from watches, Switzerland also is a big exporter of pharmaceutical product, and that's what Trump is going after. But the point I'm trying to make is some of these countries already formed the bloc already. Okay, so the pieces are coming together very slowly. Please be aware of it. Industry in the U.S. slowly losing ground, so you got to do something. Come invest in the U.S. Taiwan, come over, invest. The U.S. wants like $400 billion from Taiwan, not $100 billion, 400. Otherwise, I'm letting you go with the Chinese. In fact, right now in Taiwan, they have a movie, a new series, which basically depicts China invading Taiwan. And I think they use like a plane crashes in Taiwan, and they come over to help the plane, and before you know it, they're on the spot. So no, we didn't come to invade. We came to secure the plane. It was a Chinese plane, and now we're sticking around. Something like that. That's the idea. So these are major issues that I want my subscribers only to join the channel so you understand what's happening. I'm not trying to take side as much as possible. I'm just trying to tell you what is going on, because all of these things have a huge impact ultimately on your money and on your job. Right now, that's what's happening. Right now, you've got this tug of war, right, where they're basically deciding where should we go, what's going on. Well, what's going on is that they're trying to slow the decline, which is happening. I mean, you could check it. You could ask Google or whatever. The decline is happening right now. The thing is, what you want to understand is what is the strategy? What's going on? The decline in semiconductor in 5 to 7 years critical loss estimated is 5 to 7 years for semiconductor key competitiveness risk. In 3 to 5, API generics. You gotta make your own medicine, people. You're not making your medicine anymore. 95% of active pharmaceutical ingredients are not made in the U.S. Now, this is not just a show for the U.S. people, but obviously there's something going on because Trump is always doing something, so people are talking. This also could be for the Swiss, because right now what's happening with the Swiss, they're coming over. That poor woman is coming over. She's literally going to beg Trump, although she don't even think she's going to meet with him. But Switzerland is not China. And I think he's going to say, okay, fine, I'm going to give you 15%, but I want you to invest $400 billion. Like that's what he's doing with Taiwan right now. Taiwan, usually under Biden and all these things, what used to happen is they used to invest $3-4 billion in the U.S., right? And Taiwan makes 60% of the production of chips in the world. That's their thing, right? And without chips, you don't have anything. We don't have us. We don't have anything. So Trump is saying you got to do more. So in early this year, they said they were going to give $100 billion, and he's saying now, no, I don't think so. That's not going to be enough. I need more money than that. That's what he's doing, basically. He's of course, you could say, well, he's like a dictator. He's like, it's horrible what he's doing to these people. It's terrible what we're doing. We should all go live streamers. What does that mean? Potato chips or computer chips? Exactly. Computer chips, obviously. Semiconductors. Semiconductors, 5 to 7 years, the U.S. is gone, unfortunately. So he's telling Taiwan, you come over. Yes, I need money. Here's $100 billion. No, I don't want $100 billion. I want $400 billion. That's kind of the number that's being floated around. And in fact, he's not just asking now. He's telling them, don't come over right now, because the president of Taiwan wanted to come over to the U.S. So you'll notice, right? They're coming over. The Switzerland, Taiwan, all these countries, they want to talk to Trump. They say, please, please, please. But you're not seeing China, India, and that's a concern. I mean, that's the news. You heard it. But what does it mean? It means that these people are together already. Be careful. I mean, hey, good for them. I mean, they do what they have to do. But with Taiwan, he wanted to come over, and Trump said, don't come over. I'm talking to China right now. Don't bother me. And in fact, you know what? I may not do those military exercise anymore for the time being. So they're scared to death because they know that any moment in time, I'm telling you, there's a show in Taiwan right now, and the show basically is saying that there's a crash, a Chinese plane crashes in Taiwan, and the Chinese army comes over to free, quote unquote, the plane, and they stay there. And before you know it, they are all over the island. They're not going to invade it openly. They're going to use an excuse. So that's a problem right there, my friends. That's a big problem, because these things, these pieces, and again, like in life, understand that this is like chess. You're moving pieces here, you're moving another piece there, and I want my subscribers to understand what's happening so you could make the right decision. For example, should I buy a car now? Shall I, borrow? Hold on. Theoretically, rates should be going down in August. Why? Because the Fed basically have seen the July number being low, the revised number being low in May, the revised number being June, the employment numbers. And frankly, should they have seen those numbers, and that's why this woman is in trouble, because if those numbers were correct in January and in February, in May and in June, maybe we would have lower rates. So that's the question that you need to ask yourself. What's going to happen next? And this is what this channel is about. Not that we want to predict the future, but we want to understand where all the pieces fitting right now. And for example, as far as how you could take benefit from this channel, well, the rates. As far as the stock market, feels like the stock market is going to keep going up because at the end of the day, the economy is doing fine. The numbers that are coming out are great in terms of the S&P. The question is, when are the tariffs going to hit? And that's why you have to follow these things. I wouldn't say daily, but you need to be aware because the tariffs, hopefully nobody disagrees with me, but no one actually, those countries like Switzerland, they don't pay the tariffs, right? You're aware of that. Don't let anybody tell you that Switzerland's paying the tariffs and China is paying the tariffs and they don't want to pay. No, no, they don't pay tariffs. The person that pays the tariffs is the importer, right? It could be GM, it could be a foreign companies based in the US, but they are paying the tariffs. So what do they care? Well, they care because obviously at 39% tariffs, a gold, right? Where are the treasury bonds interest rate and amount issued? Then thanks. The key. Right now, I think the 10-year is at the 4.2% or something like that, which has been going lower, which is good, but who knows how long. The reason I was answering the question to Gary there, the reason why Switzerland, for example, does not want 39%, instead of spending, well, I think right now a gold Rolex is gonna take you back like $40,000, right? Now it's not gonna be 40,000; it's gonna be $60,000. $60,000. How are you going to do $60,000? Then you're not going to buy. So don't even bother exporting your stuff. And obviously, the people making the watches and everything else in Switzerland are going to get hurt. That's what they're concerned about. Of course, the second point is, well, once it comes over and you get charged 60,000 for the watch, right? I mean, to 40% more. Then who are you going to? Are you going to pass that 40% to the customer? Or you're going to take it in the chin and took the hit. But nobody could take a 40% hit in the bottom line. That is too much money, right? So at the end of the day, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you understand that those countries are not paying the rates. They're not paying the tariffs. No one should be wearing a Rolex watch. It's unnecessary. It's nonsense. Well, like they say, you are what you eat. You are what you drive. You are what you wear. You are what you are. Everybody does what they want to do, whatever makes them feel good. I think people should do what they want to do. Because, I mean, you may not agree with what people do, and that's okay. But frankly, people do what they want to do. Okay. So that's what's important. Okay. The next thing that you could say is, well, what's going to happen to the stock market? Well, the stock market right now is great, but is very expensive. Anything that could happen is going to be, I mean, let's put it this way. It's over there. It's going to keep going up and up and up. And with the numbers coming out, it's going to be even better, right? From the S&P, unless they start passing the cost more and more. I'm going to do a video on that because I think some of the companies like Caterpillar or whatever are starting to get hit, and they're going to start passing the costs. Once they start passing the cost, then that's a problem. Now you have to understand that the idea also is that these people were making a lot of money to begin with at the beginning, and the tariffs is taking it away from them. Like Apple, you realize that Apple, and check it out on the net yourself, Apple wasn't really paying any tax at all. And I think this is kind of a tax on Apple. I said, no, don't do it because now your iPhone is going to cost $1,500. But they never paid any taxes because they used to put all of their factory, they used to pass everything through Ireland. Take a look at it, you'll see. It's amazing how they get away with things like that. And obviously now they're going to have to pay, and that's what they don't like. And that's what Trump in a way is going after. Even though he had all these people coming to his inauguration, he said, no, but you're still going to have to pay me. I'm not that stupid, right? So that's the thing that's happening with that. So that lady unfortunately started the whole thing because she's highlighting the fact that, frankly, changes need to be done, and they're saying, "Aha, that's what he's doing. He's replacing her. He's replacing all of the what we call the pillars. The pillars. He's going after all of the pillars of the the trades. Nobody played around with trades like that before. He's going after the economic institution, the BLS. When you say he's going after, that's true. He fired her, but the numbers were kind of off, weren't they? And what's the plan after that? Why is he doing all this? Why are we seeing all this humongous amount of uncertainty? And now, of course, you can't even look at the data anymore. But I will tell you, while all this is happening and all these people are getting upset, pieces are being moved around the world right now. You will notice, see what happens with India, right? Trump basically went there, told them, you got to stop sending your oil to Russia. But what does that really mean? I mean, do you want him what? Don't forget, India gets 30% of its oil from Russia. What does that mean? You hear the news all the time, right? The thing with this channel is we're going to try to understand, but what's the point? Why, what's the point? What's the point of it? Well, the point of it is we want you to stop feeding the beast in Russia, in Ukraine? Really? Do you really think that's the reason why? Do you really think, and listen to me on this one, do you really think that Trump's goal is to stop Russia from attacking Ukraine? And what he's doing, and he's telling India, stop selling them oil. Because I told Putin that I'm going to go after his friend because the friend of my enemy is my enemy. Do you really believe that's what he's doing? Right? Do you really believe? He's buying from Russia, right? India is buying oil from Russia. I mean, I am sure he tells you, but then that's because of public consumption. He says, the killing has to stop. Well, obviously the killing has to stop, right? I mean, Jim, what do you think he's doing? What he's doing, he's getting in the middle of Russia, and India. Because what he's asking for is almost impossible. India gets 30% of its oil from Russia. Okay? So they are not going to do that. And let me tell you, the relationship, the reliance, he's saying, really? You're more reliant on the India, believe it or not, is more reliant on the US than it's reliant on Russia and India. When it comes to trade, US is the largest trading partner of India. When it comes to technology, very high dependence on the US. Education, every year, and I know lots of them, they're sending hundreds and thousands of students to the U.S., Indian students. Russia, yes, they have a high dependence. India has a high dependence of Russia in terms of defense and in terms of energy, obviously. Not much yet. Heavy reliance from China, India from China. So Trump is saying, listen, why are you with them? You should be with me. Or you're playing both sides. Or you know what's happening next. Because don't forget, These people, and this is how you become a leader, right? You don't think about what's happening in front of your face, like this woman's being fired. Oh, well, that's not good. So what? No, what's happening is you need to think ahead. You need to think what it means. And what it means going forward is that Trump says, okay, you're my friend, right? Uh, 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 Let me show you. You are my dearest friend, right? Because we were together. You came over to my house and we did a bunch of things together. And, right? This one, I think. No, no, this is a bad one. We were together. We certainly, because he spent a lot of time with his friend here, right? Okay, this is them. They're hugging. They like each other a lot, and frankly, Modi. Let me go to the side here. Obviously, Modi needs the U.S. a lot, but what are you doing? What is Modi doing? What is he thinking? That's the question. And I think what he's doing, if I know it, and now you know it, the U.S. is going this way. If I know these numbers, right? If I know that the U.S. is becoming irrelevant, he also knows that at some point, for his country, the future is not going to be. Do you think that we'd be better off with Kamala Harris? It. I don't want it to be a discussion as to who likes Trump, who doesn't like him, uh, who could he be with, and none of all of these questions, right? Um, these issues would have been there with or without Kamala. Now, how forceful she would have been against the tariffs, right? How forceful would she have been? Would she have, you know, I wouldn't say banned the law, but say everything is an emergency, so everybody gets a 40% tariff. Would she have done that? Probably not. Would she have spent more time negotiating? Probably. But how much time are you left? How much time does the U.S. truly have? That's the question. Is this the right way of doing it? That's another question. Because frankly, when you tell Modi, I want, you tell Modi, I want you to stop oil shipment from Russia. You know very well that he's not going to say no. He's not going to say yes. That's impossible. You would have a huge amount of increase in oil, in inflation, because now you have to pay more for the oil. And what, you're going to get it from the U.S., going to ship it on a barge, come over? It's impossible. That's impossible. That cannot happen. So that would take too long. So then basically, so what's the point of telling him this? The point is I am telling him that this is serious. I am serious. Meaning that, look, trade, technology, defense, education, strategic alignment, I am your guy for those things. You are heavy relying on me for these things. So you have to choose. You basically have to choose your oil or me. And unfortunately, what did Modi said? Modi said, no, no. I think this is a misunderstanding, right? But we'll send you maybe you'll send him some money or whatever. Send the money to the U.S. like everybody else is doing, because he knows very well that he said, you know what, I'm going to promise you 500 billion. Is that okay? I'll send you the $600 billion that the 550 billion that Japan is sending you. I'll send you some money as well. How about that? You'd be happy if I do that? And we all know, hopefully you know, that 500 billion promised by Japan is not really exactly cash in a suitcase that that Trump is going to get and spend whatever he wants it on. Uh, Trump is a guy not kicking the can. No, no, exactly. You got to stop kicking the can down the road. The problem is that the right way to do it? And of course, the second problem is, but how much time do you have? Because as you could see, these people are not budging. India is not budging. I think it's too late. I think India is, and they were fine the way it was, meaning that, uh, you know, we're getting closer and closer and closer to Russia and China, quite frankly. And you guys are losing ground because you forgot to do things. You decided to export everything. You don't have your own medicine. Your microchips, not potato chips, your microchips are being done overseas more and more. You're not doing anything. But of course, and this is why it's a little bit sad that this whoever is going to do this has to sacrifice himself because after that you're done. Nobody's going to like you. Um, Meaning that, as you could see, well, no, exactly. I don't want to come to the defense of Trump, obviously, because because then I need to try unbiased as possible. But if you, from his perspective, no, let's put it this way: look at the situation, right? Who do you see behind Trump right now? Do you see anybody right behind him? Anybody on top of him? You know, basically saying, "Yeah, yeah, that's right, Modi. What the heck are you doing?" Do you see the VP at all? Do you see Vance? Remember, we have a vice president. You saw him. You did see him when he went to Europe, and he says, "You better stop. You better spend your own money. We are not going to protect you any longer." Remember that? Where is he now? Because they're, they're thinking, okay, you know what? Um, Suppose this thing doesn't work out. Suppose that the tariffs come through and it's a disaster. Suppose the thing with, we'll talk about this afternoon, the Maxwell thing comes out and you were there partying with the rest of them. Suppose, you're upsetting Canada and you're upsetting Modi and all these people, and suppose these people turn around and start doing their own thing by themselves. What do I do? That's a question. And that's why you don't see them much. That's the reason why Trump is kind of by himself, making the decision by himself, deciding on his own because, they Rubio wants a job eventually, right? He wants a different job. Maybe he wants to be president. Maybe he wants to be reelected. Maybe I don't know what he wants. But right now, it doesn't sound too good. Or at least he's not sure what's going to happen. That's what you need to worry about. So the question is this, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we're discussing lots of important topics. We're following what's really going on. Is that woman basically she did certain things that probably could have been avoided, should have been avoided. Were not avoided, that's for sure. And the reason that she gave is basically that unfortunately this is very difficult. Trump is firing a lot of my people. Nobody's answering. Nobody's answering the surveys. It's a very difficult job. Okay, I guess so. It's just that it's very coincidental, and you could see everyone is coming to a rescue by saying, "Look, Trump is attacking the BLS. He's going to put his own people in there, and I won't be able to trust anything." No kings, right? I mean, you know what? In this case, Trump loses on both sides, right? Because if he doesn't do anything, uh, in May and June, you could have had some rate cut, and you did get them because they missed by 256,000 new job creation. They completely missed that because I guess there was less people working, people are not answering, excuses or whatever. If Trump does something, then you're gonna say, well, you're that's terrible. You fire the lady, and they're gonna put your own people. You're acting like a king. This is 2025. The 2025 plan, because believe it or not, the 2025 plan also, Project 2025 also talks about the fact that you need to get rid of BLS. Coincidentally. That's a tough one to really find out exactly what's going on. That I can't tell you exactly, you know, is this what's happening? Is he really to that extent following the plan? Or it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I wish I could understand it, but I don't know. I think that what's happening is the mistakes that were made were, and that's a fact. I mean, you need to understand that the way they calculate, how do they come up with these things, right? But basically, what they do, like for example, the CPI, right? How is the CPI calculated? Well, they basically go out and they collect 90,000 quotes, right? They go out, they collect 90,000 prices. They go to 90,000 price quotes every month, covering 200 different turn um, item categories. I mean, that's a big job. That lady has a tough job, I have to say. And there are several hundred field collectors coming across 75 urban area. It's a huge job. Now, who's checking her? I don't know. So when data is not available, the BLS staff typically develop estimate for approximately 10% of the data for the CPI calculation. The CPI calculation, the inflation gauge that the Fed looks, they look at that number. However, the share of data that now the CPI is estimated has increased significantly for some reason to now 30%. We're not even sure when you're looking at the CPI, it's an actual number. 30% is fake. Why is this a big deal? It's a huge deal because if you think inflation is here and you're lowering the rate, oh, you know what? Inflation is not here. Inflation is here, actually. We have a huge amount of inflation, which we did not. Then we're going to talk about Epstein this afternoon. Because Biden is, they want Clinton to go over there in Congress. So if you don't know what's happening with inflation and you're here and you're there, what are you going to do? You're in big trouble, my friend. Huge trouble. And for that, unfortunately, we need to decide what we think is going to happen. And that is a very, very uncertain situation. So I think that, let me see what you guys want to talk about. The only important thing is that Hector is running 3 Honda Civics with spoon engine, and on top of that, he just came into, I'm not so sure what that means. Are you decide for Trump or anything? Are you trying to decide for No, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out what is the ultimate game here so that we make sure that we protect ourselves. Right? How you protect yourself? Well, let's put it this way. If you have inflation and they're lowering the rates, you're in big trouble. If they decide to pass the cost on to the consumer, we're in big trouble. The companies, the corporations are going to be in trouble. And then the stock market is in big trouble. Don't forget, the stock market is extremely highly valued right now. It's going to keep going up as long as everything comes out right. But when it stops coming out right, you're going to be in big trouble. Got you. Bring up the volume. I got you. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Inflation is at 2%, which is a good number. It is a good number. 2.6% is a great number. But when you say the number, you're using the CPI number. Pin the tail on Trump from Carla. No, I mean, I'm here to explain. I'm here to kind of teach what's going on. I mean, the 2.6% is very good. The 2 point, you got it, River. The 2.6 is a good number. There's nothing wrong with that number. The same way unemployment at 4%, there's nothing wrong. It's a very good number. So everything is great, right? The thing is, we're not here to know what's happening today. Well, we should know what's really happening. Frankly, we need to really understand what's happening, right? But the stock market is always fluctuate, goes up and then go down, no matter who is in. Yes, correct. But you would rather it goes up than it goes down because then obviously it impacts you. If you have you have money in the stock markets, you want to make sure you don't have a huge amount of you don't want you want to make sure you don't have a huge amount of recession on your way. The only way to protect yourself is to put every jump in jail. Well, I said inflation is at least a concern, and we have a okay, okay. I see what this is going. Well, I don't know about that. Put them in jail for ever since the tariffs. We've lost 23%. Whoa, 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 whoa! Hold on, David. Don't spread that kind of information. The stock market, okay. I could tell you right now that well, we lost money in the market. That is true, but the market has recovered and is now higher than it was before. And in fact, I'm going to give you numbers right now as far as, how well is the stock market in the US versus versus everyone else. And I believe that it's actually doing quite well right now. Why is it doing well? Because the market is up, and the market is up because the economy is up, and because, frankly, the thing with the tariff is kind of going away. They're saying, "Well, this is not such a bad thing." The tariffs. I mean, we are in control. We thought it would be a big problem, but it's not. So let me tell you right now. So if I look at the indices, right, in the stock market, the U.S. year over year, year to date, the U.S. is up 7.94%. But what you should know is Germany is up 20%. Italy is up 19%. Spain is up 25%. Canada is up 13%. See what I mean? I'm not sure what game is playing, but he's not looking good for Canada to start. Well, unfortunately with Canada, that's a problem, right? Canada, they thought that because they were next door, they would be no. And what you have to understand with Canada, and don't you remember at the beginning what Trump said? I want to make Canada the 51st state. I want Greenland to become. Remember that people say, "What is he talking about? That doesn't make any sense." Because he knew, not he, but his advisor, he said, "Listen, China and India and Russia are getting together. You better do the same thing here. Otherwise, of course, people say, well, the reason he's doing it is because he wants to invade Canada. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. We don't want to be part of you. Well, you better be because these people over there are getting together and we're not getting together here. I mean, that's kind of the thinking. Now, is he correct? Is this the way to go about it? Maybe not, right? People pay the tariffs while America reeks in millions of dollars in trade revenue and we pay off the national debt. Well, I mean, that's the idea. What Trudeau was a big problem. Trudeau was a big problem. But people pay the tariffs while America seeks in. Well, the people, unfortunately, right now that are paying the tariffs, I have to tell you, the people are telling you, it's not the people, it's the companies. It's not the countries. Russia's not paying any tariffs or China or whatever. It's the people importing. Could be like GM is paying the tariffs and Ford. So that's a lot of damage. That's costing a lot of damage. So we have to be aware of that. What did it look like with Trudeau? Trudeau was a big problem. I think people didn't like him. Okay, so this afternoon we are going to be talking about Clinton. Let me ask you a few questions. Has no evidence, so don't let him call in chat sound like he's right up there. We might. Yeah, I know. Well, trying to inform everyone here. Try to make sure everybody understands what's happening. Let's talk. Let's talk about Clinton after this, and then we shall be back. Bye, everyone.